You will put the attention in the abdomen. We first want to trigger humility, and we will do this through humiliation, self-humiliation. You don't need anyone to force it onto you. If you humiliate yourself with aggressivity, you're not doing it correctly, because that's arrogant, therefore it's not humble. Self-humiliation, wanting to reach a state of humility, is not to despise yourself like a self-persecutor. How bad I am, I'm a bad person. No. A simple and objective feeling of humiliation is simply to recognize something that you want to protect, which is futile. For example, the idea that you are a person. We'll take care of this one. You have an idea of who you are. Can you admit, by paying attention to yourself, being conscious of inside, and being honest with yourself, that many times you did things or said things that you didn't really control and after regretted it? You can admit that you're not fully in charge, and that inside, all the potentials that you've gathered over your lifetime, the potential are energy and forces of consciousness that push in various directions, sometimes contradicting each other, which causes inner conflict. You're filled with those potentials of consciousness, of conditioning, of trauma, of judgments, of beliefs, of cultural dissonance and resonance. And you are not in charge. Because these powers inside you push you in various directions that you did not necessarily choose. Therefore, there's still something that has power over you. Therefore, whatever you conceive yourself to be is just a fraction of what you really are. Because you still don't know how you're going to react when something new happens in your life. If you get home and your lover is in bed with another, you will probably have a reaction that you could define in your head now, oh, I'm not jealous, but then you would discover you are. Through life experiences. You can think that you're good all the time. I'm a good person, I've done great deeds. Of course you did, and you are a good person. And as much you are also a bad person, because there's tons of things that you have the potential of doing if you have not done so far. You can shout at people thinking you are right, but just endorses suffering. Every time you've been angry, it was not your choice, but you have been angry nonetheless. Therefore, you don't control yourself. So, who are you? What are you? And whatever you conceive yourselves to be, a person. That person is a mask, a surface. You are a land filled with animals and creatures. You have an explosive volcano. You have a deep lake filled with swamps and disgust. You are filled with bacterial infections as much as bacterial cleaners of that infection. You're a swamp. You're a mountain. And of course these are metaphors because you have none of those either. Inside, you are an ecosystem. You're a microcosm. And that world decides what it does, not you. Breathe. Humiliate yourself simply by admitting, with no arrogance or violence, without despising yourself, without being a victim of your own persecution, without hating yourself for being such a bad girl or a bad boy. Drop out of the violence you do unto yourself. Be humiliated just by humbly acknowledging, I can't even trust myself. I have not achieved mastery of all these forces. And I have to be humble at my own feet. Whatever I have conceived of the idea that I am a person is a dream in itself, shielding me from the reality that I am in fact a world. And hopefully you can free yourself of the ideas also that you're a world. You are not a person. The person is a veil in front of your experience of life, of existence, of reality. And that life itself and that existence, that reality will be transcended to something else. And whatever remains will be real in the moment it will be. But now you are humble, humiliated, admitting to yourself the weakness of that personal veil. You just observe it. This trust that you have put in your intellectual mind, your ego, believing that you control yourself and you know how to behave and you will make good choices and good decisions. And an insignificant shock in your dramatic life completely ruins any idea you had of how you behave and how you should be. And you don't control yourself and you do something stupid. And you were certain while you were doing it that it was the best, until 15 minutes or 15 days or 15 years later you realize how stupid you were, and it was not. Can you humiliate yourself with compassion? Not hard on yourself, but just honest. That many times in the past you have done things you believe were the best, and then you realize they were not. And how much in falsehood are you leading yourself to believe that whatever you have done today was the best, when it's just a question of time for you to realize they were also a level of stupidity. How good today? How much credit do you give to yourself as a person today, when it's just a question of time for you to realize, oh, that today in the past, I was so stupid, now I'm good. Can you realize the futility of the energy and false hope you invest in that idea of being a person? As much as I would say don't doubt yourself, I will say more even, don't trust yourself. Don't trust yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Stop believing that the self is a parameter that can lead you to a correct livelihood, behavior, or means of attaining ascension or Buddhahood. Don't trust yourself. don't doubt yourself either. So, until you realize with humility the futility of yourself as a person, you will not let go of that idea that you are one. So just look at it and accept it. It's not an intellectual decision. Oh, okay, so now I know I'm not a person. Forget it. Because you know these forces inside you, they have decided that they were going to keep nourishing that person. So you can't just decide in your head that you will not. There's only one way out. You observe the futility. And you have an emotional experience rising from inside. A humiliating yet compassionate, soft regret. Honest with yourself. Humble. And when we say compassionate, you don't sort of force yourself to have love and kindness for yourself. No, that's not compassion. That's just a side effect of compassion. Compassion is in simplicity taking just what is right there and accepting to go through the process of not being so good at all. It is the end of your greatness. You are great only as a person. Breathe gently. This observation is part of the Vajrachedika process of perfectioning of your mind. A humiliating process of humilifying yourself, a burning away of self-importance. And you can have a burning feeling or a crumbling feeling inside. It is not comfortable. It is humble and honest with yourself. How good do you believe that you are now? If you have always looked back thinking, oh, in the past I was not that good, but now I am? Futile. Ridiculous. You are not bad. You are not good. You are not a person. Once you admit you are a world of conscious experiences, there can be a feeling of greatness. And that greatness would never try to be validated by someone else. Look how great I am. No. because that would be the person trying to rebuild itself. When you truly achieve a feeling of the greatness as a being, like the Tathagata knew he was worthy of praise, world-honored one. He knew himself humbly to be worth praising, how great he felt, never seeking that greatness. Because the person is what seeks that recognition from others. I'm searching to find how great I am, so I'm going to try to convince others to tell me that I'm great. But that doesn't work. That's in the world of dreams and illusions. When you discover yourself as an eternity, as a world in itself, you feel so great. And that greatness still has no value. It is freedom. Self-humiliation is not self-degradation. It is simply the coming back to a point of humility. A simple, honest remorse or regret of seeing how much pain came from your infatuation of yourself. And to admit that moment after moment, if moments exist, as you progress, you're just trying to do your best. And you will never be able to do more than your best. So don't be so hard on yourself when you did not do enough. If you did your best, you did what you have to do. And that's it. And even then, giving your best is doing what you have to do while staying comfortable, because if you give everything you have nothing left to give for the next best you have to give. Therefore, doing your best is never emptying yourself of every resource and energy, because that would prevent you from being efficient in the next time you need to do it immediately. Therefore, doing your best is not emptying yourself completely. It is a cruise speed where you just remain efficient as long as you can. You see, you're hard on yourself. I did not do good enough. That's your person that says that. It's your ego. Doing good enough is not giving everything you have, because that's stupid. That's not prudent. It's doing what you have to do, and that's it. Ensuring that you can give again as time progresses, as events happen. How great do you feel you are in a false humility where you need others to confirm how great you are? That rises from the idea that you are good now, but before you weren't. And how much do you believe that you are great if in just a few moments you're going to see, oh, so it was not a good way of thinking, therefore, oh, I was so stupid up to 15 minutes ago. Now I'm good. Now I'm good. Now that's a good one. I've got it. My person is good now. You are a good person. From the point of view that there's no ego nor person to be. And that goodness is personal and intimate with yourself. And you can feel great about yourself. But if that greatness fights for others to confirm it, that you know it's not the real greatness. It is the person fighting to become that greatness, but can never be. You'll invalidate it in a few minutes as not the good way to be. But now I'm good. Trust evolution. Trust the evolution process. You are on the way to achieving perception. I'm sorry, there was a mistype in my mouth. It was a lapsus. You are on the way of achieving perfection. I love doing a little typo mistake with my speech, especially on this one. So normal, so human, not free of little mistakes like this, that I could justify because I spoke French a lot before the speech and I'm sick and my mind is tired. I am still in the process of greatness, and it's wonderful. I like it. Breathe. Look at how great you are. And as a person, invalid. Breathe and come back here. Pay attention to the Master teaching. This was an introduction to the way to observe a person, and then you'll do it with a lifespan, and then you'll do it with the living person, the being, with a way of being born, with an importance, with a guilt, with a trauma, with an enjoyment. You'll do it with everything. This is exhaustive observation. I was guiding you with my words. You'll have to guide yourself with your own mind. So of course your intellect will be throwing stuff at you. I'm looking at this and I'm looking at that, but take a long time to let yourself immerse in it. With moments of silence in your mind. It is not a pure still vipassana, it is exhaustive observation. Observe richly and simply. And you go through every part of the experience of a teaching to grasp it. If a teaching speaks of freeing yourself of the idea that you are a person, then you can't just read it. You have to discover it through an experience where you brainstorm with yourself, how could I possibly do this? Knowing that there are feelings inside me that will fight to keep believing I'm a person. Even whilst I fool myself through words saying, oh, I'm not a person because I've read it in a sutra that I'm not. But nonetheless, all that we mean by a person, you still have all the behaviors and traits and properties of being that person. So stop fooling yourself with these teachings in these sutras, where you intellectually condition yourself to believe you're this and that, and not go to the depth of an experience where you realize you accomplish yourself as a teaching, as a wisdom. That's what you must do. Accomplish a wisdom. Then you are that wisdom. Now we just relax. I agree. While we do these strong contemplations, our emotions, our inner structures, they break. They break. Until a true experience of power as a self, which is not conceived as what your mind would make of a self. A real structure erects itself inside you, but it's a structure erected not on the ideas that you are self, but on an experience of pure wisdom, filled with beauty and grace. And that is the symbol of the two towers rising from the earth in the Lotus Sutra. which is not a symbol of the two towers in the Lord of the Rings. Different sutra. It's easy. Thank you. A little tad of humor is good. Ate nate no nate anada nade konadi. Ate nate no nate anada nade konadi. Towers rising from the ground and then resound a roaring sound that deteriorates the conceptions you have about these sounds and the ground itself from which the towers rise. The earth from which the holy towers rise is the incarnate objective experience that starts with eating, keeping yourself healthy, clothed for security and respect of those with systems of beliefs and judgments regarding bodies, shelter to keep yourself as dry as possible and warm as possible, to keep the heat in the night, to be shielded from the heat in the day, keep the cool as much as you can. Shelter is to manage temperature. Did you know that? Because originally most shelters were not strong enough to keep away the bad beasts. Swords and poles and lances and javelins were the tools to keep away the evil beasts. And the fire, that would keep away animals. Shelter was temperature management. As much as clothing. Don't you enjoy the broadening feeling that you have listening to this kind of wisdom, to the approach of living wisdom as experiences and not as conditionment in your mind? Conditioning your mind to be freed of conditioning, that is ridicule. And ironic that most people do it that way, even while they believe they don't, because they've conditioned themselves. They have no conditioning of having one. That's ridiculous. It's like Tara's book, 108 Steps to Free Yourself of Structures. He never wrote such a book. It's just a joke we play about him. So we have to free ourselves of structures. Let's build a system about it. You know? Which is actually a very efficient, expedient mean. It works. In the end, it works. Your walls will crack inside. You will feel and hear the rubble of your stone walls crumble on themselves. Your fortress will collapse on your person, and that person will die, ceasing to exist. And whatever remains is really what you are. That is the way to experience the bodhicitta, the bodhicitta technique. Vipassana being one of them. Well implicated observation of yourself, exhaustive observation. Now the word exhaustive in every language means a lot, in every aspect, detailed, profound, rich. But in English, exhaustive is close to exhausted, and you think you have to observe yourself until you just die trying. You know? No, it's not about being exhausted. Exhaustive is profoundly rich, detailed, implicated, embracing. Like an exhaustive list of things to do. Right? Usually after a good vipassana or good exhaustive observation, you feel broken and well rested. Like, difference between exhaustive observation and vipassana is in exhaustive observation you're brainstorming softly, leading one experience to another, thinking about it, how you can be more humble and more broken, more out of pride, we could say. Then you do it to get humbly out of the Savior, and then humbly out of the guilt, and then humbly out of the regrets and remorses, and out of the fear and the shame, the pride and the false hopes and the egocentrism, the attachments out of ego. But only through experiencing that ego trait very richly while it crumbles. As a funny metaphor, we could say that you don't run away from the house to be freed of the house. You just ram your head right in it. And you really feel the pain that comes from the idea that there was a wall there. But then from that shock of your consciousness unto itself, the wall has broken. There's still the feeling of that shock. Now, don't throw your head on the wall. It was a metaphor. And every metaphor has its own flaw. Remember that, okay? There are words subject to interpretation. It's to inspire you the possibilities. That fortress will break and fall on you, breaking the conceptions you have of what you are. That is what's important here. Thank you.